We're now going to cover construction modes. Anytime I do any type of manipulation on my geometry, a construction mode appear. And you notice the manipulation goes into one of 4 areas. The first being modelling. Each of these can be defined fairly simply. Anytime you want to make changes to your base shape, you should be in modelling mode. If you're doing shape animation, go into shape modelling mode. If you're going to apply a deformer which you want to animate over time, things like an envelope, go into animation mode. And if you want to manipulate, just as I did, a move component, and you have an envelope, go into secondary shape modelling. So the modelling will adjust my base shape. You notice the topology operator automatically goes inside modelling. This cannot be moved because it will always adjust my base shape, even if I were to be in animation. It's going to automatically go into modelling. If I want to make some shapes, I'm going to shape modelling, and now I will save a shape key. There we go. Automatically a cluster shape combiner appears. This cannot be moved either. This defines how all clusters, including an entire shape cluster, will save a shape in relation to all clusters. We only have one at the moment, so it's rather academic. If I were to go to another frame and make some changes, you notice my manipulation now is in shape modelling. Save a shape key, they get blown away and defined as a shape. I can still go back and make changes to my base shape. How so? Switch to modelling and go back to here. I can even add, let's save these guys, but still got my shape animation because it's applying the topology operators first, then the shape animation second above it. Once I'm happy, or at any stage, I can freeze my modelling, and therefore all operations inside modelling get blown away, but my shape animation doesn't, and my animation doesn't, such as my envelope. If I hit freeze, in fact the entire stack gets blown away. Shape modelling. I'm going to set an envelope. It's going to prompt me that I'm currently in shape modelling mode, whereas normally an envelope is an animation operator. Do I want to apply it as an animation operator? Well, in this case, no. I'm actually going to use it as a shape author. So there we go. My envelope operator is inside shape modelling. I can now manipulate it like so. And here I'm going to save a shape. So go to another frame, save shape key. You notice it blew away my envelope because it was defined just as a way of authoring a shape. Well, if I don't want that to happen, I can always have mute deform on instantiation on, like so. It's defined my shape, muted the operator, which I can always go back to, unmute, and use again. Well, why is it jumped like that? Well, that's because I defined this as a shape, and it's ignoring this operator. Reapplying the operator means that I have the same shape added again, and that's why it does that. So bear that in mind if you're using an envelope or a deform operator to create shapes, because on the timeline it's got this one shape, then the deformer. I can move my envelope operator into animation but again it's still going to do that because the envelope has defined itself twice. Once in shape and once in envelope. So normally your envelope operator you want to be inside animation. If we go into the clusters now, I can always get rid of that, and now I have my shape animation plus I still have my envelope. If I were in animation and I apply my envelope, it will automatically put the operator inside animation. Most of the time the envelope operator or deformers will stay in animation because over time you'll want to make some keyframes. So if I were to be in rotation, let's go back to the beginning, there we go. So now I've got shape animation and envelope animation at the same time. If I were to start doing some more manipulation, if I were in, say, modeling, I get my move component. If I were to save this as a shape, well, in fact, there is nothing inside shape modeling to define the shape. I've got something in animation and something in modeling, so it will contain no deformation. I have to be in shape modeling for it to understand my manipulation. If I were to do it again, there we go. In fact, again it contained nothing because my move component, my envelope operator is still not there. I can always move operators such as move component up a stack like so. So now, yes, I want to replace it like so. So now I can actually, there we go, define my shape animation because my move component was inside shape modeling. Otherwise, everything else will be ignored. Sometimes you're going to manipulate and move and make shapes even if you have an envelope operator. If I were to grab these and start to manipulate them, ooh, they're going a bit weird. Well, that's because currently I'm in shape modeling mode. I'm manipulating in shape modeling mode, which means that I'm actually ignoring the envelope operator like so. And that's the true representation without the envelope deformer. Well, how is it that I can manipulate above the envelope operator and see the result I want? I have the envelope, I switch to secondary shape modeling. So I want to define this. Now when I move it, it's perfect. It's because the move component is above the envelope operator, but when I save my shape, it's actually creating the shape and doing the inverse calculation and giving me what I want to see. If I were to just mute the envelope, like so, there. That is how it's going to look. When I muted it, actually just did a quick double deformation because it was viewing, I was doing some undos. Scrubbing the timeline, you can see exactly what's happening. Unmute it, you can see the result. I can always change how I view the result because the construction modes can also be displayed. So if I were to look at another right hand view here, I can actually see the result of everything, the entire stack. This guy, I'm going to switch to something like sync with the current mode. So if I were to go into modeling, it ignores shape animation, ignores the animation. If I go to shape modeling, I I can see the shape animation and my modelling. And if I go to animation, it sees my animation, my shapes, my modelling, but not the additional manipulation I've done above the envelope. This is also very useful for doing things like go back to modelling, adjusting your base shape. Maybe I want to add some detail inside here. You can see that where I'm selecting is now much easier to select in something like this than it is in the final result. If I do some extra manipulation here, I can see the result here. Very useful for things like envelopes. If I were to go into even my modelling, my animation, doesn't matter, I can paint the weights of my envelope and see how they change, and I can see the result up here. Much easier to manipulate in a different mode or the original base pose. So to recap, every time you want to adjust your base shape, switch to modelling mode. If you're going to do standard shape modelling, make sure you're in shape modelling mode. Any deformer, which will be animated over time, deform by spine, twist, envelopes, should be defined in animation, and they won't get blown away when you freeze the modelling. If you want to visually see how something will be manipulated above the envelope, switch to secondary shape modelling, move your points, save your shape, and it will do the inverse calculation.